No. Here we go. Right? Lauren. Two, three, four.
Hola, buenos dias. Mi nombre es Linda. My name is Linda. I serve gratefully on the Worship Associates team here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Welcome to service with us this morning. Welcome to everyone on our virtual campus. Hi, everybody out there. Welcome to everyone on our Alluvial Avenue campus. We are one congregation in many places. If you are on our virtual campus, this is the perfect time to share in your live stream with your Facebook or YouTube friends and followers. Don't be bashful. You can ask them to come worship with us this morning. This morning, we acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue Church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokut and Mono peoples. As Unitarian Universalists, we welcome you no matter your race, culture of origin, age, spiritual background, or religious beliefs. We welcome you no matter your disabilities, the amount of money in your bank account, your level of education, or your neurodiversity. You are welcome with or without documentation, con papeles y sin papeles. You are welcome if you are lesbian, gay, bi, trans, non-binary, gender fluid, or questioning. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. If you are on our virtual campus and you wish to share a personal joy, sorrow, or concern or gratitude on both the virtual and Alluvial Avenue campuses, this is the moment to type your joy, sorrow, concern, or gratitude. We'll write them down and give them to Troy so he can include them in the joys and sorrows later in the service. If you don't do it now in the chat box, we won't have time to get them to Troy. As you may know, we are in the midst of our annual pledge drive. This is that festive time when members and friends of the church let the staff know how much we will be generously sharing in terms of financial support during the upcoming fiscal year, which runs from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Your pledge allows us to build budget based on the total amount of money we expect to be donated from the church's members and friends. This morning, Laura Radanoff of our Pledge Drive team will give us an update on our progress.
Good morning, buenos dias. It is my pleasure to announce our week 4 total. Drum roll, please. $468,391. That's 76.35% of our goal of $612,892. This leaves us with $144,501 to be pledged. Because of this, we are hereby officially extending our annual pledge drive by 1 more week so that you have an opportunity to make your pledge. There are still about 100 people or families who have not yet renewed their pledge. If they do not, we face a difficult financial future. If you pledged last year, your pledge packet was mailed to you in late February. It is probably somewhere in the growing pile of unopened mail. It will bring pleasure into your life and rainbows into your sky if you go now and find it, open it, and fill out the pledge card. If you are on our Alluvial Avenue campus, just stop by our pledge drive table if you need a pledge card or want to find out what you pledged last year. If you've never made a pledge before, please stop by the table and we'll help you celebrate making your first-time pledge. If you are on our virtual campus, just email your pledge to pledge@uufresno.org. That's pledge@uufresno.org. That email address will also answer any questions you might have, such as, what did I pledge last year? And can I increase my pledge by 100%? Thank you for funding our future so that together we thrive.
Now, in the chat box on our virtual campus, in person here on Alluvial Avenue, or in the silent sacredness of our hearts, let's take a moment to safely greet one another. Perhaps you could even share that you have turned your pledge in.
Everyone's just really happy to see each other. I get it. I invite our virtual campus attendees to gather a candle or a chalice to light after our prelude. As we begin our service this morning on both our Alluvial Avenue campus and our virtual campus, let the sound of the tingsha open our hearts to all we might receive.
Every day I wake and everything is broken, turning off my phone just to get out of bed. Get home every evening, history's repeating, turning off my phone 'cause it's hurting my chest. Hey, and heaven knows I'm not helpless, but what can I do? Yeah, can't see the use in me crying. If not, I'm not in trying to make the change I wanna see. I can sit and hope, I can't just sit and pray that I can find a love when all I see is pain. Falling to my knees, and though I do believe, I just can't preach, baby, preach. Whoa, I just can't preach, baby, preach. All I hear is voices, everybody's talking, nothing real is happening, 'cause nothing is new. Now when all is tragic and I just feel sedated, why do I feel numb? Is that all I can do? Yeah, and heaven knows I'm not helpless. Yeah, I'm only human. Can't see the use in me crying. I'm not even trying to make the change I wanna see. I can't sit and hope, I can't just sit and pray that I can't find a love when all I see is pain. Falling to my knees, though I do believe, I just can't preach, baby, preach. I just can't preach, baby, preach. And heaven knows I'm not helpless, but what can I do? Yeah, can't see the use in me crying. I'm not
I invite those at home to light a candle or a chalice as Linda lights the chalice in the sanctuary. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in these people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. I invite those present on our Alluvial campus to rise in body and spirit and join those in our virtual campus in singing We Rise. If you are present on our Alluvial campus and are not vaccinated, please sing in the sacredness of your own heart.
2, 3, 4.
In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, humbly hearted, rise, won't be divided, rise. With Spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, all of the children rise, elders was with them rise, ancestors surround us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, up from the wreckage, rise, with tears and with courage, rise, fighting for life, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here.
Please remain standing while we recite our church mission. Many of you were already standing. It was really good. La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Now, please be seated. And here we now have the fabulous, the incomparable Bill Murphy talking about his commitment to the UU Church.
My wife Carolyn brought me to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno at the beginning, and it took a while for me to get involved, and when I did, I became a member, and that was more than 50 years ago. There are so many things I've taken part in. I'm part of the people taking care of the landscape. I take care of the irrigation on the orchard. I'm involved in the pledge team. I sing once in a while. I'm a member of the choir. At one time, years ago, I was choir director for 20 years. It's been a long-term involvement, but it's been really worthwhile. Looking into the future, it's hard to know exactly where we're going to go, what we're going to do, but we do know what we have to do to make this a better world. We have people from Afghanistan that we're supporting. We have our social justice concerns that we're dealing with. And there are so many things that we can help with if we work together. I think we have to realize that each of us is a part of this church, and that we need to contribute what we can to making it work as well as it does. I'm the type of person who, when he finds something that is worthwhile, he wants to stick with that. And that's what's happened to me. In January, Carolyn and I will have been married 60 years. I found something of value. I've been involved with this church for over 50 years. I found something of value. Sometimes we sing on Sundays, "There is a love holding us." That's the thing that keeps me coming back. It's the basking in the love that's holding all of us.
Whether you are here in our Alluvial campus or attending in our virtual campus, I invite you to relax your shoulders. Feel the weight of your body pressing into your chair. Breathe in and out. And again, in and out. And one last time, in and out. When in the past week did you feel connected to something greater than yourself? When in the past week did you feel connected to your origins or your heritage? As some of us entered the sanctuary this morning, we may have chosen to record a joy or a sorrow on the small cards in the back. Those on our virtual campus were invited to share their joys and sorrows in the chat box. Here are some of those shares. Mary McDonough shares a sorrow that longtime member Edith Horner took a fall. She is recovering in a rehab facility, but will be moved shortly. Vicky Ono recorded a gratitude. She's thankful for the birthdays of Carinya Beasley and guitarist Steve Ono. And Lauren, he brought in a gratitude today, joyful and grateful that the Dodgers signed Freddie Freeman, and baseball is back, baby. This day in history saw many world events. Today I hold up two connected to our service theme. To honor art, March 27th marks the birthday of Sarah Vaughan. Sarah was a popular 20th century African-American jazz singer. She was recognized for her beautiful voice and often nicknamed the sassy sailor and the divine one for her salty speech. Moreover, she won a Grammy Award and was awarded the highest honor in jazz by the National Endowment for the Arts. To recognize certainty, in the year 1814, at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in Tohopeka, Alabama, in the Creek War, Andrew Jackson and his 3,000 troops defeated the Creek Indians, slaughtering more than 800 warriors and imprisoning 500 women and children. We take this time to acknowledge and accept the atrocities that were committed against our Native American and indigenous people and the inequities in policies and practice that still exist in our current society. As we think of all that has been shared this morning and all that still lies in the sacredness of our hearts, we also hold in our thoughts those unable to be with us because of poor health or compromised mobility, including Judy P., Molly K., Glenda R., Pat M., and Al G. Let us expand our power of connectedness beyond these walls to those who have no one to remember them, to speak their names gently with love. Through the light of this flame, may we and they be truly blessed. To our extended community, we lift up the families that are experiencing significant harm in the Ukraine. No one should have to experience the cruelties of war. May we take the light from this congregation and in spirit transfer the light from our heart to theirs. In addition, all of those that have been so drastically affected by COVID remain in our hearts. This pandemic has caused so much pain and yet so much clarity, illuminating the pieces of life that are most significant. And so, as is our tradition, we light a second candle for those deaths and the over 6 million other citizens of the world lost to this pandemic. Today's call to meditation is voice still and small, pequeña voz.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Still and small, deep inside of, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we remain.
Today's silent meditation and spoken response is titled, "To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation," by Reverend Teresa I. Soto. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know that not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. Así sea, bendito sea, Amen. Finding connection, finding balance, finding purpose. My journey has defined me as it has defined most of us. Connectivity is something many of us take for granted. Listen, I'm guilty to admit, as a parent of a toddler, that canceled plans can sometimes bring music to my ears. Sometimes I would love nothing more than to disconnect, and in the age of social media brawl-for-alls, it's really not a bad idea. You should definitely do it. If you have social media on your phone, take it off right now. Just do it. It'll make your life better. However, this is not always the case. In fact, I've found myself searching for connection within myself. I think that's what many of us do, right? We continue to define ourselves and our identities. Those questions begin to rise to the surface. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? These are heavy questions. Oftentimes they materialize when we're young teenagers. Sometimes they don't materialize until we're fully grown adults experiencing an existential crisis. Either way, the journey to connecting to oneself can be a tumultuous one. Most of the anxiety from that experience comes from the potential discovery. What will I find on the other side? Are there elements of my past that will arrive forcibly in my present? Maybe my future. The unknown is forever changing, and as people, we draw up conclusions that aren't reality. We jump to the ending without reading the story in the middle. This was all the more reason for me to expand my self-view. Where do I come from? When my wife first brought up the idea to conduct our ancestry DNA test, I honestly wasn't sure how I felt about it. My roots lie in Kinder, Louisiana, and Pensacola, Florida. My mom left Kinder when she was a baby, but her family roots were still firmly present in the small southern town. My father left Pensacola when he was 17 to escape a life that would undoubtedly lead him to all of the wrong places. Those were always my roots. Why look beyond that? I had never visited these towns before, nor did I really have any desire to, because I knew from my parents' stories that these places were impoverished and they were very southern. The type of southern that makes it very difficult for people that look like me. So that was the beginning and the end of my cultural connection. I had no need to explore until my wife brought it up. And she has this unique tendency to get me to dive into unknown waters. Quite literally, actually. She took me snorkeling in the Caribbean for the first time, and I was not a great swimmer back then, and I was scared. But I did it, even if it did involve clutching the life preserver like it owed me money. Like snorkeling in the Caribbean, the idea of diving into my ancestral roots was a little daunting, but also a little wondrous. I've never had to dig that deep. My dad was a man of many stories, so I never really knew if his accounts of my family knowledge were 100% accurate. In fact, I spent the majority of my life thinking I was a significant part Puerto Rican. Spoiler alert, I am not Puerto Rican. All right, let me finally bring this around. We did the test, and you know what? I'm glad we did. I had realized for so long I had limited my sense of cultural connection because I knew my family history was firmly embedded in slavery. I mean, I knew that. It's a shadow cast over many American black families. As black people, we spend too much time trying to move out of that shadow. We don't want to be defined by a plantation. We don't want to be labeled with a slave name, and we damn sure don't want to have to explain it. That was a, you can give it up, That was a long time ago, they say. It's really not. This is really my past, my present, and my future. Or so I thought. We opened our results on Christmas morning with my entire family in the room. Yeah, I know. It's my wife's idea. What seemed to be a scary moment actually turned into something quite magical. I had flashbacks to people asking me in middle school, "So what are you?" No, but like, what are you? No, I mean like, where are you from? No, I mean like, where are your parents from? What about your grandparents? I never had a straight answer for them, and I still don't. But at least now I can say Nigerian, Mali, Scotland. Whoa, wait, say what? Scotland? 20%? I thought I was Puerto Rican. Cameroon, Congo, England, the Ivory Coast. The list goes on, y'all, and I was shocked. I'm really not just from the South. I love Cajun food, but I'm not just Cajun. I guess there's more to me than I thought. I guess there are more layers to this story than that one chapter on slavery. I looked at all of the color-coded regions on the map, and I couldn't help but feel whole. I now had a new story to tell. I had now connected with something much larger than myself. And geez, I was Scottish. I mean, it's cool, I was just shocked. So this is not a commercial for Ancestry.com, and this is certainly not a persuasion piece on DNA tests. Not everyone is ready for this, so only embark on this journey when you and if you feel the time is right. Bringing up ancestral roots can be an inspiring experience, but it can also bring up a lot of trauma. So do what's right for your spirit, because at the end of the day, you are who you are, and that is enough. I will say, though, I'm happy I took the plunge. I'm happy I have access to this information whenever I want, because it's a privilege. It's something that I'll never take for granted. And regardless of the results, as my son often reminds me, I'm not a kid, I'm Tony. Well, I am not a label. I am not a historical footnote. I am Troy. Thank you.
Let's stand as you are willing and able and sing together the hymn, We Shall Not Be Moved, as Mindy leads us. 1, 2, 3.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. No
right. Get nice and comfortable. Now we have Dr. Malik Simba, longtime retired now Fresno State professor. With our sermon today, We Have Come This Far by Faith, Critical Race Theory, and the 1619 Project.
Good evening, good morning, good Sunday. Thank you, Unitarian Universalist Church, for inviting me to speak on my topic, which is We Have Come This Far by Faith, Critical Race Theory, and the 1619 Project. Let me say this. In the past year, there has been a vibrant debate concerning America's past. The debate is centered on critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Both terms involves a biblical understanding of God's justice. God justice, a biblical understanding, both terms, critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Most of you know how Martin Luther King made numerous references to how Scripture became the driving force that helped African Americans survive the darkest days of slavery and Jim Crow. He referenced the fact that justice may doze for a while, but never sleeps deeply. One of his favorite references is from the book of Amos, chapter 5, verses 24. Verse 24 reads, "Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." Long before King in the 1960s used biblical scripture, most slave preachers holding church in the slave community consistently referred to Psalm 68:31, which reads, "Princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall haste to stretch out her hand unto God." Other biblical passages used by these preachers were Proverbs 21:15. "When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous and terror to the evildoers." Another biblical scripture comes from Isaiah 61:8, and it reads, "For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbers and wrongdoers." Let me connect this biblical Black history to the contemporary terms of critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Critical race theory initially emerged in the late 19th and the early 20th centuries from such schools as Harvard and Yale. Professors on the staff of Yale and Harvard were Oliver Wendell Holmes, Carl Llewellyn, and Benjamin Cardoso. In 1881, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote his book, The Common Law. In this work, Holmes said, and I quote from the book, "The life of the law has not been logic, but experience, the felt necessities of the time, the prevalent moral and political theories, institutions of public policy, the avowed or unconscious prejudice which judges share with their fellow men, have a good deal more to do than the idea of equality in determining the rules by which men should be governed. Critical race theorists today uses Holmes's observation to clarify the relationship between racism and American law and history. Connecting this point to the 1619 Project, which argued and argues that slavery and racism via American law and institutions are the locomotion of American experience. The classic example would be the Quaker schoolteacher Prudence Crandall, who in 1832 in Canterbury, Connecticut, decided to integrate her finishing school for young girls. As an anti-slavery advocate, Miss Crandall was inspired by scripture, especially Ecclesiastic 4:1, which reads, "As I returned, I considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and I behold the tears of such as were oppressed, and they were no comforter. They had no one to comfort the oppressed, but the slaves." That is Ecclesiastes 4:1. "As I returned, I considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter." Race prejudice of the good citizens of Canterbury, Connecticut, led them to use the law to put Miss Crandall in jail for violating their own segregation statute. She violated that statute by admitting just one Negro student. Her name, Sarah Harris. While in jail for violating that segregation statute, the good citizens of Canterbury, Connecticut, destroyed Miss Crandall's school. When you think about the integration of schools and Sarah Harris, many of you might think about another young teenager, Linda Brown, who in 1954 integrated the Topeka, Kansas school system. Within American history, there's been a dialectic or a clash of opposites. We see this clash over the institution of slavery and God's justice. The anti-slavery movement was developed in the 1840s by Quakers and other progressive Americans, such as John Woolman, Woolman, Benjamin Lay, Anthony Benassai, William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, and many, many others. A part of this strategy of anti-slavery would be a massive mailing campaign through the United States Post Office. And these thousands of mailings were addressed to white Southern slaveholders, explaining that holding a child of God in chains of slavery would lead to their own damnation in hell. You can imagine that Southerners didn't particularly like this omen that relates to their behavior, ungodly behavior. Ultimately, this led to the American Civil War. And the American Civil War is the epitome of the dialectic of light and darkness, when thousands 300,000 or more Americans died, some fighting for the light of equality and God's justice, and the others in the South fighting for the darkness of Satan. That is, theologically, the American Civil War. One of the essays or pamphlets mailed in this massive mailing campaign of anti-slavery in the 1840s was a pamphlet written by George Cheever entitled God Against Slavery. Now, the end result of the Civil War, of course, was the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment by the radical Republicans. And this was a very small group of people who were, before they became Republicans, they were very much involved with the anti-slavery or the abolitionist movement. And they basically used a tactic to convince the more conservative Republicans to pass the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And that was a waving the bloody shirt. They would literally take the bloody shirt of a fallen Union soldier and say, what did this shirt mean? The blood on this shirt mean that this young man died to uphold God's justice. Did he die in vain? And then the radicals would say, pass this 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Of course, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave an equal protection of the law and birthright citizen. Any person born in America is automatically a citizen. And of course, the 15th Amendment that gave Black men the right to vote, not Black women. They didn't get the right to vote until all women got the vote with the 19th Amendment in 1920. Most of the controversy today concerning the 1619 Project and CRT, critical race theory, because far too many white Americans are in a dialectic opposing God's justice. They just don't want to see or hear about the dark days in which there was white over Black, entrenched in a caste system of racial slavery. They really want a whitewash history that you see on various 1950s and 60s shows in which everybody's happy, the white people are happy, and the Black people are servants. The 1950s and 1960s, all your television shows that address race relations show that. It's a happy history. It's not real history. Whites who support this version of the narrative of American history, I think they are practicing what I call hypocritical race theory. Hypocritical race theory. And you know what they are. They're hypocrites. These people they really don't want to know about the white teen, Hazel Bryant, who in 1957 yelled racial epithets at Elizabeth Eckford, E-C-K-F-O-R-D, who was attempting to integrate Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, with 8 other Black teenagers. Critical race theory is an attempt to explain to Mrs. Hazel Bryant's grandchildren why Granny was so angry and so racist. To better understand the importance of the 1619 Project and critical race theory is to understand the state of Israel and Jewish people everywhere who use the refrain, never again. To study the past is to hopefully bring individuals to the light of God's grace and mercy and justice. Both Jews and Christians alike can embrace a brotherhood and sisterhood of struggle by remembering the stanza within the Black national anthem, also known as Lift Every Voice. And this stanza goes like this: stony the road we trod, bitter the chastened rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Trilling our path through the blood of the slaughtered, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. And most of you know the conclusion stanza. But it's really our faith in God that has brought African Americans this far by faith. One person that needs to be discussed is President Harry Truman. Now, Harry Truman is one of those least talked about presidents in American history, but he's the one in 1948 that supported the platform of the Democratic Party, which was to secure these rights. Very few people know about that document, but it's a document to secure the rights of the racial minorities in America. That's Harry Truman. And the first thing he did under that effort to secure these rights is to integrate the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force. Harry Truman started in 1948 the ball rolling to integrate America. Now the reaction, and this is hypocritical race theory, the reaction was Southerners and conservative Republicans to run their own candidate for president of the United States, Strom Thurmond. And they ran him under the new party called the Dixiecrats. And time is short, so I really can't go into what happened, but the Dixiecrats lost. And the Dixiecrats really was a composite of conservative Republicans and Southern Democrats. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected in 1932, he was known as a liberal Northern Democrat. The liberal Northern Democrat is the party today. They're not Southern Democrats, they're not conservative Republicans, and so forth. And so today we have this clash of light and darkness, the Democratic Party, and what certain leaders of the Republican Party, what they said after the riot at the capital of this United States of America. They said, major Republican Party leaders, that we are a big tent party. He was referring to those rioters inside the Capitol waving Confederate flags. And the head of the Republican Party did not say, we're going to exclude the KKK and that flag from our party. He said that we are a big tent party. We can embrace all of these right-wing, white supremacist individuals because they're voters. That Confederate flag was inside the Capitol. So what did the Civil War mean? What was the purpose of the Civil War? What did it achieve? That flag means something to Black people. And I will conclude with this one story. Everybody know about Mr. Arbery being shot and killed by a father-son team in Georgia. Mr. Arbery was chased by the father and son team. Now, I won't mention their names. But that father and son team was chasing Mr. Arbery in a truck. And on the front of the truck was a Confederate flag. So when the head of the Republican Party said that we are a big tent party and we embrace people that wave that flag, they shouldn't scratch their head when the mass of Black voters would never vote for a Republican candidate. Critical race theory and the 1619 Project tries to clarify a historical narrative that is truthful about God's vision of humanity and equality. Thank you to the Unitarian Universal Church for inviting me to give this presentation. And hopefully, in a few months, I can answer in person at your church any Q&A about this presentation. Thank you very much.
Two, three, four.
Listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you can hear there are voices still calling across the years, and they're all crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand.
None of us are free.
None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. And there are people still in darkness, and they just can't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, then it says it's right. We've got to try to feel for each other, let each other know that we care. Got to get the message out, send it out loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is changed. None of us are free. This is true. We all need to see. None of us are free. None of us are free. It's a simple, isn't too hard to find. None of us can find it on our own. We've got to join together in spirit, heart, and mind, so that every soul who's suffering will know that they're not alone. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. Just look around you, you're gonna see what I say. 'Cause the world is getting smaller each passing day. us are free. None of us are free. One of us is changed. None of us are free. 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 One of us is changed. None of us are free.
We are incredibly blessed with our wealth of musical talent in this congregation. That was fabulous. Woo. All right, back to reality. This is a service about cultural connection, and I can't think of a stronger place to build chosen culture and chosen family than this church right here. I first walked into the UU Church of Fresno when we were in our adorable little redwood church over on Millbrook Avenue, I don't know, 15 or 16 or 17 or something years ago. And at first I just sat and listened to the worship services, but soon I needed to deepen my connection and find out where I was rooted and how I was connected to this church. So I joined the church, I became part of the worship arts team, I served on way too many committees. I got elected to the board. I was home. I found my people and my family, and I really gave of my time and my talent. But what I didn't get as an unchurched person is that isn't enough. As fabulous as your time and talent is, the church needs your treasure too, because without it, we can't function. We can't run the church on goodwill and feeling connected. And I know most of you make a regular financial commitment, but I would encourage you also to participate Sundays in the ritual of giving and reforming that connection every week. Drop an offering in the basket or on our virtual platforms. Drop something each week. In that spirit, please join us in our words of offering. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? There's a slide showing how you can make a financial contribution right now for our folks that are online, or you people here, you've got cell phones, you can do this. Or if you're here on the campus, you also can drop something in the baskets. We're still not passing them because of COVID, but please drop a check or some cash in the basket on your way out the door. Thank you in advance for saying yes. May this church continue to be worthy of the many forms of your gifts. May these gifts allow us to continue to bring these Sunday services here and into your home each week. As we prepare to end our service, please join in our Chalice Extinguishing words. Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. We have just a few reminders this afternoon. As always, and for those of you that are new, the exits work this way. When it's time to leave, after we've finished our final song, please allow the folks in our socially distant seating to exit out those doors. And then y'all from this side of the sanctuary can exit out those doors, and folks with mobility concerns get the pathway out the front. we have coffee hour. This is an opportunity, if you're new, to find some connections. If you're not new, to continue some connections and maybe connect with the folks who are coming here for the first time. Please stay for coffee after it's all out there after worship. You may have heard there's a pledge drive going on. If you have not yet pledged, we deeply need you to do so. If you have pledged and you're interested in, doubling or tripling your pledge, that'd be great too. There's folks out front that can help you with your pledge also, or you can connect online. It's really easy to do, I promise. As we prepare to end our service and return to the outside world, we have a tradition here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. We like to acknowledge those who are with us for the first, second, or third time. We are so happy and honored that of all the places you could have come this Sunday, you picked here. So, if you are here virtually, please give a shout out in the chat. And if you're here in the sanctuary for the first, second, or third time, would you stand for a minute so we could just acknowledge your presence? We won't leave you standing long. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome. And now will the rest of you join, rise, as you're willing and able. Please place your hands over your precious beating heart for our closing words and sung benediction. We leave blessed by our connections to one another and to the Spirit of life. Walk lightly, that you see the life that is below your feet. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Live to love and be a blessing on this earth. May it be so.
1, 2, 3, 4. Assalamu alaikum. 2, 3, 4.